I've been up and down Ruislip Street a few times now, and I think I can answer these letters a little bit better. So this first one, I've used this street as a safe cycling street for years and can't imagine why you would need to alter it, especially by putting in calming sections that merely make it narrower. As a cyclist, I want plenty of room for cars to keep well away from me, blah, blah, blah. The essential question here is, why do this? Well, as a confident, mature adult cyclist, I think the street was probably fine as well, but it would exclude people like my kids, the elderly, all that kind of thing. So saying it's all right, Jack, is really not an answer. Second thing here is saying that the chicanes are a failure and it's not working. Well, let's just revisit why the town of Cambridge is doing this street. There's a school up in the top left-hand corner where that first arrow is, and there's another one down in that bottom right-hand corner. So it makes sense to put a safe street through here for the kids to ride to school. And I noticed from reading the map, I haven't actually done it all the way to the railway line, as where those yellow dotted lines are. So the next bit, bike accidents in WA reveals that over 10 years, right angle crashes, rear end crashes, sideswipe, same direction crashes, and sideswipe, opposite direction crashes account for 88% of all cyclist fatalities and 70% of hospital admissions. Great. Okay. What do you think is going to happen when the speed limit in the street is reduced to 30 kilometres an hour? What's going to happen to all those crashes? I think the simple answer is they're going to diminish substantially because the speed limit is lower. When the speed limit is lower, firstly, drivers have more time to see cyclists, and cyclists have more time to see drivers doing stupid things. And secondly, if I get hit by a car doing 30 kilometres an hour, the chances are it's not going to kill me. I mean, it'll probably put me in hospital, but fatalities, no. But if they're screaming along at 50 or 60 kilometres an hour on what used to be a drag strip, yeah, I've got no chance at all. So, yeah, sorry, the whole idea of the chicanes is to slow people down so if there is a prang, you're not going to die or end up in hospital. The meatier question, though, perhaps is, does this street spark joy? I know that might be a pretty bizarre thing to say or a question to ask, but do we expect once this street is finished and it's calmed to 30 kilometres an hour that we'll see old people coming out on their scooters to go to cafes? Will we see, the elderly getting around on gophers? Will we see rollerbladers dancing in the street? Are we going to see casual cyclists without helmets just meandering down the street quite happily? Are we going to see school kids riding to and from school, high school kids? And in particular, are we going to see mums riding with primary school age kids home from school? Now, if we do see that, then I think you could say that the street is a great success. And even more successful is if you see primary school age kids riding on their own. Now, this is one out near, this is in Bassendean, and I think this is a pretty successful example. And you can see here they've properly done chicanes. They've put blister islands on both sides to make drivers go left and go right. They've also put these raised, speed humps, I guess, over all the intersections. And they've resheeted the entire street where you drive in red asphalt. And what's the outcome? Well, you've got families riding down the street. So I think this is a really good example of a calmed street. Some of the other features, what you'll notice is the parking switches on the left here as we go through the chicane to the right. And the red asphalt and the on the road, and then the black asphalt really, I guess, narrows the street psychologically, so it keeps speed down. And then they've done this little interesting thing here where I don't know whether this was a through street previously or they've just cut this through the park for cyclists. But there's another street in Scarborough where they've actually chopped the street up in a number of spots by putting down big rocks to stop drivers being able to go from one section of the street to the other to cut out through traffic. And to me, that's probably the ultimate way to calm a street is you just, you allow residents to get to their houses, but you stop it being a through street. So anyway, there's the chicane. I think you've got an idea of what a good shared street looks like. Things I don't like about Ruislip Street, really big radiuses on the curves on every single intersection. What a big curved radius does, like this one, it allows a driver to zoom around the corner at speed and not bother looking to their right to see if there's a cyclist coming. So I would have blocked all those corners off to make drivers come at them much more square on and actually stop and look properly. I still don't like this concrete canyon down up and down the road. We'll see what happens with this section here. Are they going to put just a flat cement island on there so drivers can get around you? I don't know. I guess we'll find out. But look, I dislike the pinch points, and I especially dislike the uphill concrete canyon. My thinking on that has absolutely not changed. Look, it'd be different if they chopped this street up into sections so that there wasn't any through traffic and it was just residents getting home, and they were just using this street for the last couple hundred metres to their house. They'd probably be a lot more relaxed. If it's used by through traffic and you've got people rat running through here, then you've got a much greater risk of having someone, on your back wheel who's just losing it because they're late to work and they're blaming you for all their problems. And this just shows the shiny new concrete that's gone down. Those are the concreters there on the right. And so it's coming along quite nicely, I think. So you can see the size of these great big islands in the middle of the road. There shouldn't be any problems with, drivers having to go around you if they need to, apart from here, where they've actually built the islands up. I'm not entirely sure what the logic was for doing that. I guess the engineers have some justification for it, but I struggle to see it. Now let's just look at a driver overtaking from behind, and you can see as I go around what will turn into an island eventually, there is in fact plenty of room for drivers to get past by driving up onto these fake brick sections in the middle. And the road here is certainly wide enough that they're not going to risk having a head-on with a vehicle coming the other way. It's it slows things down, but to me it still seems fairly safe. This is a much better alternative, I think, than the concrete canyon further east. I really dislike that. This I don't mind at all. Now, the interesting thing was, though, that I got overtaken a couple of times, and each time I've caught up to the driver at the next set of lights, not the set of lights, the next intersection. And I think it just goes to show that it's the cross traffic at these major intersections which is really slowing drivers going along Ruislip Street from going end to end. It's not getting stuck behind a cyclist, because these crossroads are a lot more major. They're quite busy, and you can sit here for a minute waiting to get across. So, yeah, I know drivers might like to blame cyclists for slowing them down all the time, but I think the answer is no, it's actually other drivers. Now, parked cars on the side of the road. Notice how the width of that island sticking out is almost the same as a four-wheel drive parked on the side of the road. So, effectively, these islands are really just like parked cars on one side of the road. And what we could see there is in fact plenty of road space for for you to get past. Now, I did stop and wait for this bus, and this might be why there's no actual chicanes, because buses like this, especially bendy buses, might have a lot of trouble getting through a chicane, but getting through there is fine. And I just thought it was prudent to stop, because I didn't want to get squished between the island and the bus if he came out a little bit. And it would have been nice if we had a cut through the island that we could use as cyclists, rather than have to go around the island. Again, to me that would make a bit more sense. But again, who knows what the engineers were thinking here? Maybe they just wanted lots of space to put in plants and trees and stuff like that, and to hell with cyclists. But if that driver was whinging about being held up there, well, what if there was a trailer or a boat or a caravan, parked there instead of that island? They would still be held up waiting for the bus to come the other way. It's other traffic that's slowing them down and getting in the way. Now, there are some big, humps over some of these intersections, but not all of them. And like I said, I have no idea whether they'll resheet this road to give that same effect as we saw in Bassendean. Oh, look at that lady pushing the pram. Why is she pushing the pram? No footpath on that side of the road. That's, again, shows why, you need a safe, active street for all types of users, not just cyclists. These islands in the middle of the road here are brand new. The cement was still quite shiny and wet. So again, it's coming along quite nicely, and we'll see what these refuges end up like, and how easy or how difficult it is to get across the road. So anyway, did that street bring joy? Will we see this type of activity where mums are riding to and from school with their primary school age kids to those schools that are there? Will we see rollerbladers out frolicking in the street on date night? I don't know. In the concrete canyon, I certainly doubt it. What about the elderly? Well, we'll see. But I guess the jury, as far as I'm concerned, is still out on this design.